All right, First Chronicles 29. Let's call this one Turn and subtitle it David Provided, because the chapter is literally going to talk about, once again, the way in which David provided for the temple he would not be allowed to build. And in addition, it's going to tell us that he not only provided by accumulating a lot of the materials and people that Solomon would need to be successful in building the temple, but it's going to talk about the way David gave out of his own personal treasury what seems to be most, if not all, of what he had accumulated for himself. And so he is going to use that, the things that he's provided and the things that he's given from his own personal stuff, to ask Israel a question: who will then willingly give as well? Going back to that concept we talked about in the last chapter, hoping that Solomon would be surrounded by people who would willingly work. Now David is asking the people, understanding the example he set, who will willingly give? And the answer is going to be, sounds like pretty much all of them, because they're going to have a great celebration. Once again, at this site where they had mourned not long ago the consequences of David taking the census, they are now celebrating. And I can't help but imagine part of the reason is them reflecting on the fact that, look, we don't necessarily have to be here. We could be dead now, but we are getting the chance to give. One thing that David is going to also understand, that which is simply God's own stuff. And so we're basically a poor return on investment, because out of all the things that God has given us, we're simply giving him back a fraction of what he's invested in his people. And so two sober realities, or sober realizations, help motivate David at this time. One, the realization that there doesn't have to be a Jerusalem left to build the temple in, but there is. And likewise, all that we're giving him with this life that he has spotted us or allowed us to see is a fraction of what he has given us. And so David seems to be a great picture, once again, of genuine gratitude beyond just lip service thanks. And as David gives that gratitude, leading the people in a time of rejoicing from the spot where they had recently seen tragedy, David passes the throne on to Solomon. It's going to say he is basically coronated again. And as Solomon is coronated, once again, confirming his role as king of Israel going forward, David prepares to pass on, and he does in this chapter. At the end of the book of First Chronicles, we're going to see that David passes after Solomon has been anointed and crowned king, having life that's described as being full of days, full of riches, and full of honor. Understanding that that is the lasting legacy that God leaves him, even though his life was filled with trauma and drama and regret. That wasn't his lasting legacy. His legacy was that of a man whose life had ended well. And so just as David, through all of the adversity, the difficulty, and the disappointment, led the kind of life that motivated God to make sure that it ended well for him, my prayer for you is my prayer for me, that we lead the kind of lives that no matter what kind of disappointment we see, they'll motivate God to make sure that things end well for us.